David, you have a halo over you.
This, huh? Right here?
Yeah, it looks like light shining down on you, or something divine going on with you.
I'll take all the good vibes out if possible. Yeah. Starting 2022.
You radiate.
Thank you, Anna. Oh no. I made the drive back from Southern California and there wasn't too much traffic, but each time I just think about people, swerving in and out and not giving enough time.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I need as much good energy because there was a few close calls.
Yeah. My daughter drove up and back down from Buena Park also. The 2 days that she picked were good because there wasn't, a lot of traffic. How far down do you go?
This time I went down to Imperial Valley.
Oh, okay.
So I went to Calexico en el centro.
Yeah, that's farther down.
It was really nice though. Perfect weather. I said, okay, well, this is a nice spring day because in Imperial Valley it'll get to 125 degrees.
Well, my daughter brought shorts when she came up here because she's she can wear shorts.
And it's funny. My family thought I was a madman because I was walking the dog and it's raining, and I'm wearing work construction boots and some shorts. And they're like, "What? Aren't you cold?" I'm like, "This is nothing. This is nothing."
Yeah.
But I'm glad for the rain. But geez, it just didn't stop.
So Anne has a message on the chat. She says she's finishing a phone call and will be in shortly. We're also waiting for Ken and Spencer.
There's Spencer. Anna, were you able to add my submission map that I mentioned in our email this morning?
Okay. And we also added the current district map at the very, very front of all the maps. So you'll see that there's a total of 12 maps because it includes now your map, David, and then the current district map.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I think having the current district maps as reference.
Yes.
And where are those maps now posted?
Well, they were in the packet, but I also can share them on the screen later if you'd like. They are on our website also if you click on the link to the agenda packet on the meeting page. Yes.
Okay.
There's a total of 11 maps plus the current district map.
Okay, that's helpful.
So it looks like we're waiting for Mary now, Mary and Ken.
Well, we have a quorum, right? Did Ken say he was going to hop on shortly?
I haven't heard from him, so yeah, you can go ahead and start if you'd like. There, you do have a quorum.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and start out of respect of everyone's time here.
Okay.
So I now call the Special Advisory Redistricting Commission meeting to order. So this special advisory meeting will be conducted pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E, which allows the city to hold meetings via teleconference during a proclaimed state of emergency when state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing. With that being said, Madam Clerk, would you mind calling for order?
Yes. Bernardi?
Present.
East? East. Okay, she must be finishing up a phone call, but I do see that
She was here, yeah.
Yeah. Kimball, Mary Kimball? No. Moreno?
Here.
Simas?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move to item C for public comment. Have we had any public comments submitted?
So we do have a communication that we get at every council meeting, every planning commission meeting, and now they're starting to send it at the ARC, and it just has to do with the speed limit removal, and I'll go ahead and make that notation in the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That moves us to item D for the approval of minutes. And now I entertain a motion to move forward with that.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. So that's a first by Peggy and second by Robert. And I see that we have Ann now. So approval of the minutes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I'm doing this out of order. It's the Madam Clerk that calls us. I apologize.
So let me go ahead and call the vote. Bernardi?
Aye.
East?
Aye.
Kimball still not on. Moreno?
Aye.
And Simas.
Aye.
So motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. So let's move on to item E on outreach and process and workshops. We'll open that up to Spencer.
I didn't prepare a report on this. Would be curious to hear attendance on the sort of before the holiday break meeting at Pioneer, as well as sort of circle back to our idea. I know there are some maps sort of floating around publicly, our idea about using those as a jumping off point. If we can hone down to maybe 4 or 5, a manageable number of directions that those maps represent. If that could be, we think, sort of a jumping off point to increase public engagement at some meetings, rather than an open-ended engagement, maybe, hey, your feedback on these draft map directions. So I don't have a lot of info prepared, but looking forward to discussing.
Oh, I'm sorry for just throwing you in there, Spence. Yeah, Peggy, would you like to start off on how our last workshop went?
Sure. You were there too, as was Danny. I think it went well. We had 2 persons from the community participate, and they took it in and asked questions, and I thought it was very helpful when Daniel put some of the maps up on the screen, and we could just sort of initiate that level of discussion on how it's actually going to work and play out. And neither of the members of the public who attended really had any feelings about where those boundaries should be drawn. They were interested, they had a sort of a civic engagement level, but they did not come to give us a map.
Okay. And jumping off of what you mentioned, right? They had the expectation that they were going to be reacting to a map. So I think today's meeting, we should hone down on a couple samples, as Spencer mentioned, and a couple maps, drafts for the public to react to, and then we can move forward with discussion. Anne, did you want to say something?
No,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I was just shaking my head.
I hope in agreement. But Danny,
Yes.
do you have anything that you'd like to add?
For the meeting? No, I thought it was good. I mean, it was good discussion, even though they didn't come to contribute maps. We still spent almost full 2 hours just discussing. So, I mean, I felt it was beneficial. But yeah, I think having these maps out will hopefully drive even more discussion and hopefully more attendance. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to thank staff that was there, and Danny, for you making yourself available to us with our individual training with the GIS tool. I thought that it was very beneficial and useful. Playing with it with trials on my end went as far as it could, but obviously with your help, we were able to provide some draft map.
Yeah, of course, no problem. It was nice meeting you guys in person and spending a little time with most of you in the week before Christmas and creating those maps in person at our new training room. So that was I think a very beneficial day for me, and getting those maps put together and then in the packet for dispersal to the public. So yeah.
So can we bring some of the maps into our screen here?
Yes, let me go ahead and share those. Just a minute. So what we have here, if you look at the packet that's on our website, you'll see that there's 12 maps, and that's because it includes, the first map is our current districts that we have. And then after that, there were 11 maps that were submitted. I don't know if anybody had a chance to review those or not.
I did look at them as attached to the agenda, which was very helpful. As I'm looking on the Esri Redistricting online, I see the current template, but I don't see 12 other templates. I'm just not sure if I'm looking in the right place.
Oh, it's under the meetings and agendas page.
Okay, so I don't have to go into the, all right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know if you guys want me to scroll through each one, or you just...
Yeah, as I created most of these, I kind of hid them from that redistricting page. So someone else who logged in couldn't then alter them. So they're still there. They're just kind of hidden from that public view. So if you want to edit any of these, we can make it available again, but that's what happened.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to discuss a particular, a map in particular, or...
Well,
This one's my favorite 4.
Is it?
Submission 4.
What
Robert, do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, I will. Because everybody has a part of Main Street. I mean, the five super councilmen. Everybody has a piece of Main Street. Everybody, I think, has a part of the floodplain. And I think those are two things that could be of interest, or should be of interest. Anyway, that's just, I really do, I like this. Although when Dan and I were when he was educating me. We did make up one that was actually skewed the other way, skewed east-west. But I think it's here. I'm not.
Yeah, I'll keep going, Robert.
Anyway, okay. Well, that's why I like this one.
Anyone else want to comment on that one, or?
I like the explanation and the part of everyone has a piece of Main Street.
Mhm.
Huge. I'm fearful as to, well, I guess I'll leave it up to the public to comment as to where their communities of interest are, but that's the goal here, to bring something forward, to bring a response from the public.
I have a comment if you're finished, David.
I am, sorry, go ahead, Peggy.
No, that's fine. I thought the stripes was very interesting, and it was very appealing to me too that all the districts would have commonalities of interest in some of the important things about Woodland. And it just strikes me, maybe there's something wrong with the law in terms of communities of interest, but it actually is kind of the opposite. It's making sure each district has all the communities of interest in it, as opposed to making sure the communities of interest are represented by one district. And, I actually like the commonality of a lot of interests being served by one council member, but it does seem to be a little bit, not exactly in the direction that we are led to believe we're supposed to be looking at things in order to look for community of interest. The other thing that I saw as a problem with this one, even though, and others share this as well, but in the first redistricting, in the first districting effort, which is reflected in the current map, there are 2 districts that have 50% or higher of voting age Hispanic residents. And to me, that's a very important thing to retain. I think it would be perceived as going backwards if we had districts that we did not have at least 2 districts that were majority Hispanic voting population. And I wouldn't, that's just, there's lots of pros and cons and thoughts about that, which I'm happy to hear. But that is one thing I noticed about this is not only does it not have 1, it has 0. Districts that would be majority Hispanic voters. There are other maps have just 1 down from 2, and then one of them, number 7, I believe, has 3, as does number 10 from my notes on it. So that, it's just like one aspect of looking at these maps that I think we need to keep in mind.
I didn't take that into consideration at all, Peggy.
Right.
And maybe it's because, well, I don't know why I didn't, but you raise a very good point, and something to think about. Thank you.
I don't know what time you reviewed these maps, but I added a last map to make it a total of 11. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the last map, Peggy. I added that this morning.
I haven't looked at it since this morning.
Okay, maybe I'll just go straight to that one since it's one that I had accidentally left out, and I thought I had included it in the packet and I didn't, so this is
okay.
The one that was added later this morning. And I'm happy to go back to any other of the maps.
I would just say, to move on to another point, I'm sure with further discussion, I'll, either want to retract everything I'm saying or rethink it in some way. But so it's just throwing it out for discussion. I'm interested in Spring Lake being a district that is currently, the neighborhood is all in one district. And obviously that will not happen in the new districts because Spring Lake is now oversized. But I think that there's something to be said for watching out for Spring Lake being, sort of split off in little pieces, so that the little pieces that are split off into, maybe 2 other separate districts, those small pieces would be completely deprived of their, commonality of interest with the rest of Spring Lake. And what I've been looking at, and I think 1 or 2 of these maps sort of has this, is trying to split Spring Lake in half so that there's sort of a chunk of Spring Lake residents in 2 other districts where their interests would be not sidelined as just a very minority part of that district, but rather an important part of that district. So I was looking for, I'm thinking number 5 splits Spring Lake kind of geographically down the middle. And I think that's the one that is the most clear-cut splitting of Spring Lake, so that the east side of Spring Lake and the west side of Spring Lake are both fairly substantial in terms of population within their own district, which there is it 4 and 5, I guess.
Peggy, I think, I would agree with that thinking, at least initially here for discussion as well. This map, however, while, physically it looks like the voting population for Spring Lake might be equally split, just given how it's broken up. Much of that area in Spring Lake consists of the jail and the community college and Pioneer High School. So the population split, might be something also to be mindful of if you're, going to gravitate ultimately to a map that does need to break up the Spring Lake population base. So that might be another layer. I don't know, Danny, if you can, ultimately pull out data relative to the Spring Lake specific plan boundary and how many voters within that boundary would ultimately reside in those 2 different districts. But
yeah, I can take a look at the block level.
You'll probably pull that out.
If it's like, heavily weighted towards, the jail and the community, that kind of northeast section there. Yeah.
Right.
I'll take a look at that.
Thanks. That'd be really helpful.
So how important does the commission think it is to try to maintain as much of the current council district boundary in the new maps? Is that of a list of, say, 4 or 5 criteria? Is that even on the list? Is it one of the factors? Because certainly some of these maps completely throw out the current boundary lines and really redraw those. So curious if the commission members sort of weight that at all as a factor to consider.
I have a quick question. With the change of the boundaries and with 2 seats open, how does that, let's say District 3 goes into, well, and let me restate that. Looking at the number 5, how would those current council members, never mind, I can't form my question, so let me give it some thought.
Well, I think, the question you're trying to get at, and I probably won't do a very good job either trying to describe it, is if you have current council members that aren't up for election this coming cycle, yet their boundary changes to a new boundary, and that boundary becomes a district that's now up for election in this cycle, right? How do we resolve that? Because this coming November, right, we have districts 1 and 2. No, sorry, 1 and 3. 1 and 3 will be on the ballot, right? And if you modify the district lines in a way such that a currently seated council member that's not going to be, anticipating running for election now falls in a district that's on the ballot, right? How do you?
I thought Ethan Walsh answered that question in the first introduction, but I can't remember what the answer was.
Yeah, I don't either, but I think it's a question, right? We need to be prepared to sort of think through. Okay.
Thank you for stating my question.
Yeah, I don't even know if that was the question, but
that was my question.
I think, from my personal perspective, I don't think we've been doing districts in Woodland long enough that we should have to feel like there's some benefit to keeping the same district boundaries, notwithstanding the complications of this year being an election year for only 2 of the districts. But, it's only been one 10-year cycle that there have been districts in Woodland. So I don't think they're so solidified or anchored in sort of the public consciousness or culture that we would feel the need to, try to retain the current boundaries with just minimal modifications. I personally don't see any need for that at this point.
I'll chime in here. I think I agree with some of the statements mentioned. I actually think that holding some of the boundaries and just modifying them is the direction that I was seeing the maps being drafted in, just simply because, it is a most recent way of doing here in Woodland that we went into districts. And as we've talked about in the workshops, it's one of the examples as to why you can't form districts in a certain way to lessen the impact of certain voting groups. And what you mentioned, Peggy, is that, and I agree with, is we have to be very careful with the cutting of the voting population, because it'll open us up for a lawsuit, and it'll make this more complicated than it should ever have to. Another point is also just for the sake of public knowledge of where their representatives are at, it allows for them to be able to kind of understand that they're still within their district, and it's with slight modification. Speaking from experience in my drafting of the map, I did it in a way that modified the current district maps, but also looked forward to the large growth that we'll see in District 5 relatively soon. And that being said, that you keep districts 1 and 3 as the areas with the least amount of deviation, so that way they can, or with the most amount of deviation, so that way the 5th district can see the growth that it will see. But
can we see your map, and can you walk us through it?
Yeah, Anna, would you mind putting up I think it's community submission 11.
Okay.
And so, my attempt was to keep West Street as the boundary, because that's as it currently is. As we mentioned in the first meeting, because of the census tracts, sometimes carrying on a straight line can be difficult. So in districts 3 and 1, trying to find boundaries that were straight and made sense was the goal of mine, but also kind of still keeping some portion of still keeping some portion of Main Street for every district. 5th district would be an exception, but they would have more of a commercial area towards the Costco, what is it? The Heritage Plaza.
I don't think that's in District 5 on your map, is it?
No. But because it's so far from Main Street. So.
So David, the Spring Lake neighborhood does have a sliver that spreads across 113 there, just north of Sports Park Drive and south of, I guess, the County Fair Mall, best way to describe it. Was there an intentionality to sort of instead draw the boundary at 113 and put that portion of Spring Lake in District 2?
It was a numbers, and that's
a matter of numbers. Yeah,
it's a matter of numbers because of the denser populations in some of those. It was just finding that, but it's not. I'm not tied to it, so to speak. It was just me trying to be as neat with some of these lines and holding that within deviation.
Right. Okay.
So if Danny can find a better division there, because like, for example, between districts 4 and 5, I wanted to make sure it was kind of a clear cut. So, I mean, oftentimes in my experience in canvassing, letting people know which district they're in,
right,
kind of easier to say north of Main, east of West, sort of speak.
The numbers are a little small on this one, but can you tell me what the percentage, which districts have a greater than 50% voting age Hispanic? Oh, that helps.
3 and 4, yeah.
So just as the current maps are would be.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty, I mean, I was honestly kind of surprised to see such a larger Latino population in districts 1 and 2. But that's based off of this current census, right? That they're pulling.
Yep. I guess, Peggy, one counter argument to, not taking into consideration the current council district boundary maps is that I think, the majority of the community probably feels good about what the impact has been of the current council districts. I think it's served us pretty well since being instituted. So I think there's some sense that, right, why would we blow those up if they've actually achieved what I think their intention was originally. So I think there's some risk, right, if we were to maybe sort of throw that out and say, well, we're going to change it, because then maybe there's, some alternative, motivation behind that, right? So you got to sort of navigate that potential concern. But
so you're suggesting that people might think that there was some behind the scenes motive in terms of moving the boundaries.
Right, that's always the risk, right? The more change there is, like what's driving, the desire to change something that, many would argue is working quite well right now. So, even if it has all the good metrics and whatnot behind it, there's always going to be that level of conspiracy theory that some may bring to the conversation. But not saying it's not worthy of consideration, but it is one that we would have to, be prepared to sort of address.
Yeah, I think, I would imagine that communities of all sorts that deal with this problem have to sort of face a little bit of a backlash in that you're changing the boundaries, what's different. But I also sort of think for the most part, that's going to come from incumbents and people who are really invested in the political system.
Right.
And that is not supposed to be part of our consideration,
Yeah.
So
Fair, yeah.
Balance it both out, I'd say.
Certainly, yeah.
Which one of these maps shows the least amount of change from the current?
Are you talking like geographically?
Geographically. So if we're talking about that, people may be a little leery of changing. Which one shows the least amount of change?
I think 3 is pretty similar. I haven't really analyzed them, in that way, but I think 3 was really close to that type of. Yeah, I'm trying to remember this a couple weeks ago now.
Daniel, this is Tom.
Yeah, hi Tom.
I was going to suggest that maybe you could add a column or add a total for each map of the number of people or percentage of people that are moved to a new district.
Okay. That's not a bad idea. What change?
Yeah, how many people or what percentage of the total Woodland population moved to a new district?
Okay. I'd have to analyze these each one by one, though. I mean, I could do it. It would just definitely take a little bit of time because I'd have to compare one versus the other and then sum those numbers. So it's doable. Maybe if we pick a handful and add that.
Yeah. In particular, I would say that would be something you would really want when you give it to the city council.
Sure. No, that's a great idea.
Right.
I'll make a note of that. What effect is this having on, each district? Is one being much more greatly affected? I mean, obviously 5 might be just because the sheer amount of numbers, but how much did 1 change? A district you think would be pretty stable. So,
and I think there is a need to have the lawyers chime in on this. But I think the greater you change from the current districts, the more you open yourself up to entities that would sue to become looking close at the maps. If it is relatively minor changes, they'll be content to let it go without comment. But if you start changing things a lot, you will draw. The possibility of a lawsuit would definitely go up.
I think we should wait to hear from the lawyer on that one.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not a lawyer, but a lot of the way the districts were drawn originally was related to input with the lawyers on what was needed. And I think before we get too far afield from those districts, have the lawyers chime in on whether that's advisable.
Yeah, I think my assumption was kind of based on that, Tom, in terms of looking at the number of districts that had a majority Hispanic voting population. And, it just strikes me that if we maintained at least 2 districts with a majority Hispanic voting population, I'm not sure where else, any complaints could come from.
Well, there's a possibility that if you, for instance, if you have minority council members who are moved out of the district they currently represent, that could be seen as discriminatory. In other words, you don't have to take into consideration where the council members live, but if it appears that it was done to remove council members from their current districts, that can be seen as, whether intentionally or not, taking the council members' location into account. So, in other words, you can avoid that by trying to keep the districts as similar as possible. But if you redraw them drastically, you're much more likely to be putting council members in the position of having to run in an entirely new district. So I think that's about it for what I had to say.
Yeah, I can see that it is quite valid or could be valid for the existing districts without a big population change. But when you look at Spring Lake, it kind of changes the calculus, I would think.
I mean, there's 11 maps. Can we agree, or can we open a discussion as to which seem too drastic or that we don't agree with moving forward? So that way we can give staff something to move forward with, like some kind of direction, I mean. So, I mean, I'll start it off. As Danny mentioned, 3 is pretty close to the current district lines. With small changes to it. I'll throw in the submission map that the map that I submitted as well, number 11, to close to district maps. But I open that up for discussion if anybody feels like there's more that are close to that, and keeping some of the other components that we need to move forward with a recommendation.
Yeah, Anna, maybe you want to again sort of scroll down through them and see if any sort of stand out that we can simply just rule out as not worthy of the commission's sort of further analysis or assessment.
There's
a couple of these were just submitted through the redistricting app, so I don't know where they came from. So they didn't look quite finished either. So you might see those in I want to say around 6 or 7, something like that.
Okay, so here's one.
And it looks like submission 1 would cut District 4's current council member. That would be a change for them.
I'm sorry, for which one, Ann? I think
4.
Yeah, they would reside in District 4, but no longer be representing District 5. And District 4 current council member would, similarly move from District 4 to 5. What that's worth. But yeah, I mean, this carves up Spring Lake into kind of 3 different areas. District 2 has that little piece, and you got District 4 with kind of a minority balance, and then the majority of the voting population, Spring Lake, would now reside in District 5.
And if you want to look at the Hispanic, it's right here.
So it maintains the two districts, 3 and 4, as a majority.
I guess from my perspective, Ken, you asked the right question from the beginning, which is, how many people in Spring Lake are moved out to other districts? And, my interest is what proportion of Spring Lake residents are moved constantly of that other district. And I can't tell that from these maps.
Right.
It's hard for me to weigh in on anything.
Okay, well, let's go to maybe the next map and see if there's anything that's egregious that warrants displacing it from our consideration.
All right.
This looks pretty gerrymandered if you wanted to just go by the looks of it.
Yeah.
District 2 certainly has grown.
District 2, yeah, grows up into the industrial area, which doesn't have a whole lot of voting population, but yeah. But I agree, Peggy. It's got a lot of neighborhoods that are sort of broken up.
I would put this as a lower priority. I don't know that we need to, reject it out of hand right now, but just put number 2 as maybe not our first choice.
It does have District 5 now with a 50% majority. Oh, no, it doesn't. Just one district, sorry. District 3 maintains that 51%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Yep.
And this one shows the
Number 3.
Number 3 shows the least deviation of boundaries.
And has just one majority Latino voting district, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, maybe go to 4, Anna.
Here's 4.
My feeling is, notwithstanding some of the problems with this map, it definitely is generating conversation, and it's very interesting to look at, really think about what we're doing. So I would recommend at least keeping this in the stack.
Yeah, I think it's a good conversation starter and an explanation as to, well, why wouldn't you want to keep this current map or keep the current district maps that we currently have somewhat? I mean,
yeah, each currently seated council member maintains a distinct district. So no 2 districts or no 2 council members land in one district, but it does have the disadvantage of not having a single district with a majority Hispanic voting population.
Okay.
But yeah, good conversation generator.
Next one. Here's 5.
I hate to be the first one to weigh in, so anybody else can comment, but this would be one I would like to keep in the stack, just to keep the idea of splitting Spring Lake, in half, as much as in half as you can, so that there is a strong Spring Lake contingent in 2 other districts, in 2 of the districts.
If there's a way to do that, my concern here in this map is District 1's layout, how it has the north section of this District 1, and I just find that the north side of District 1 on this map and the south side are completely different, and I feel like would have not similar
issues. Yeah.
Issues. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I agree with, finding a way to make it interesting and split District 5, but it's that sore thumb for me. If there's a way for us to kink the map a little bit. I don't know. Any other commissioners, please?
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
This one actually looks fairly similar to current boundaries.
I was going to say the same.
Yeah.
Particularly southeast Spring Lake stuff.
Yeah, and even District 1 is very similar.
The only thing is it cuts the east border from 4th District and gives that small sleeve for District 2 and District 3 going all the way to 5. Yeah. And I mean, even that small pocket of District 2, it's not much residential there, right? Or wait, no, there's some cul-de-sacs there, but it's or can we zoom in? I can't really. Can somebody tell us like what's around that area?
Which portion are you referring to in District 2?
On that pocket of District 2 on the far right.
Oh, right here.
That extends past East Street. Yeah, that's Yolano Donnelly.
Oh, okay.
And looks like Armfields, and then the little bit of area south of Main Street there. So a mix of industrial and sort of lower affordability residential.
I like that. There's some affordable housing in District 3 close to Cottonwood, right? And then District 2, that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one sort of counter argument to this map, at least that particular area around Armfield, is they're currently represented by District 4. I'd say the majority of that neighborhood is Latino, and it could open us up to some criticism of taking it out of a district that's currently represented by a Latina. So I think we'd have to really come up with a basis justification for why that extension is in the best interest of that community.
Right.
But I mean, that issue aside, it maintains, District 3 and 4 having a healthy majority voting population that's Latino and Hispanic. It maintains the Spring Lake intact. That's a consideration.
What happened to the 3,000 Spring Lake residents in this one that had to be moved?
Yeah, it looks like, I don't know how they get to 3,000, but there is a current extension of District 5 that goes up to Main Street, right around Pioneer Avenue.
There's an apartment complex there, isn't there?
Yeah. But there's got to be at least one other area that's moved to District 4 from 5 to make up for that 3,000. Peggy, you're right. Sorry, Anna, would you mind going back to the current boundary map real quick? So I can...
Yes, here. This is the current one.
Oh, I see.
Okay, yeah, it even goes across 113 north of Gibson Road there. So that, under that other map, it's shifted to District 4.
Yeah, and 5 is currently crossing East Street too, over by District 2.
Yeah.
So that goes away.
Yeah, fair amount of higher density there. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I have a big objection to this map, but that it does sort of seem to illustrate what my fear was, is sort of chopping off little pieces off the corners to go into another district. And then Spring Lake becomes equal to the other districts, which is obviously required. But the people who were chopped off are do they belong in the other districts, or do they belong with other Spring Lake residents? Same thing I've been talking about.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. All right, Anna, I think you can go back to, are we on 6?
6, I think.
Yeah.
Oops.
I mean, I would say this is really, probably a pretty obvious choice to anybody who looks at it, at least from a very, vague point of view, and not with precision. So I think this should be left in for consideration.
Okay. How about 7?
There's 7.
What's that little pocket, that small section of District 4 within District 2 at the bottom of District 2? You see that?
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 113.
It's gum. So that's the mobile home park there.
Oh.
Know what happened?
Yeah, I think this was one of those ones that was worked on but wasn't quite dialed in. It was kind of anonymous already. So I'm not sure where this came from other than it was just there, which was good. Someone's using it that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get more of these, but yeah, it needs a little polish, I think.
Yeah.
To, take some of these islands out.
Well, it doesn't look much like the current map, does it?
No, it's pretty different. Where we land with respect to Hispanic voter population breakout.
This one was 3, right? Wasn't it? That's what my notes say.
Yeah, looks like it.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, districts 2, 3, and 4 all.
You'd see a big swath of people where the green jets to the east and District 5 moves out to the west. Those two sections would see a lot of people who are no longer in the same district and
change. Yeah.
And also not in the same district. And in my mind, those two rectangular boxes, one green, one yellow, seem to, have some commonality of interest there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting past the size difference, right? If you look at District 4, right, in size comparison to District 2, one would assume that there's some out of balance here, but
all the numbers should say it, right?
Yep. No, clearly not.
It's the density of the population, right?
And honestly, as a jumping off point, Ken, to your point, we could probably move a lot of that industrial to any district without even really, changing the numbers. So you could make 4 look bigger for, visual balance without, really changing the numbers either. So it could be played with a little bit.
You could take District 4 all the way up Pioneer and
sure.
Yeah,
and you probably, only change the numbers by maybe not even triple digits,
All right. Have we ruled one out yet?
I say rule this one out. Just the huge change in District 2.
I think it's worth keeping it in as an illustration that it is possible to configure this in a way that you would have 3 districts that were majority Latino voters, just by way of example. And I completely agree with Danny that this would be, you could configure it so it didn't look as odd as it does right now.
Robert or Ann, any sentiment one way or another?
No, I agree to reconfiguring kind of a little bit. When you first look at it, it just looks like District 2 has grown.
All right. Well, I mean, to Peggy's point, which I think is a valid one, having an example of, what it takes to get to, majority, 3 districts, having a majority Latino voting population. Is that worth kind of including out there for discussion through this process? And is this the right map to do that?
I mean, I'd be happy to, revise it a little bit too and call it a new number too, community submission, whatever, just so it's different, but looks, as the starting place. So, if we get that direction, I'd be happy to use this and change it up a little bit if that's something we want to look at.
Well, I think, I'd be in agreement with that. If it's as, Peggy mentioned, to show how it can drastically change in that. I just don't know right at this moment how you would tweak it. But how many do we have currently that we want to keep? We're on 7. So we have 3 more. 1 more.
Yeah, I lost count, but I don't think we've discarded any yet. So we have 7 still under worthy of consideration. I'll argue that, when we come back, right, there are probably 2 or 3 that are very, very close, right? So, as we whittle down, you might want to pick 1 or 2 of the ones that are similar and pull them out and see if there's any.
I think 2 was one that was really seemed like at the bottom of the pile.
There was also one that we haven't looked at yet that was horizontal stripes as opposed to the vertical stripes. And when I looked at that briefly the other day, it didn't seem like it was worth keeping. So we have one ahead of us that we might.
There we go. All right. There's the optimism.
So this one you are keeping?
I think, yeah, we'll include it in the mix for now with, a caveat that might be worthy of some adjustment to balance the shapes a little bit.
Okay. Ready for the next one?
This one is similar, somewhat similar. Yeah.
You lose that.
Yeah, I believe the same user submitted this one, just based on how they named it.
And are there 3 majority districts there? I can't see.
No, it's just 2 now.
2. Yeah.
2. Well, given the similarity, we might consider dropping this one out.
All right. Any opposed to that motion?
No.
All right. Next 8. All right. And here's Peggy's favorite.
This one looks like we'd have all different
Sedimentary layers.
Yeah.
We'll call this one the Grand Canyon.
All right. I don't think there's any revealing attributes to this either. So.
Yeah, I think this was just a counterpoint to the vertical stripes that Robert and I worked on.
Yeah.
So
that's all it really was, or is.
Yeah, exactly. But there are 2 above 50%.
2 districts. Yeah, District 1 got to.
Yeah.
Well, it's in a totally different location. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all this really was, an exercise
Right.
to change it that way. So, but
Okay.
it was, the idea was a talking point as well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not a serious contender.
I say we can scrap it. And we have the other one that's a vertical one for a conversation starter. And just the drastic change to District 1 there.
And this number 10 also has 3 majority Latino voting districts. Is that correct?
No.
I think there's 1, almost 2. Is that what I'm seeing?
Oh,
Yeah.
It's on District 3.
There's just about 2. Yeah. 49.2 is District 4. Hey, Anna, can you scroll up real quick? Boundary for District 5. Yeah, I see. Yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of take a look at this one side by side with the other 2 that are in that category of sort of maintaining as much continuity with current boundaries. See if there's.
do we remember which number the other ones were that were very similar? Oh, I forgot.
11 and 3. Is that right?
Okay. So 10, 11, and 3 tend to maintain the existing boundaries.
Yeah, I think they hold pretty close. Yeah. Anna, is that right? Was number 3?
Let me go back right here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Three and 10 are pretty close. Is that just me?
Yeah, they are.
Pretty comparable.
Well, if 3 and 10 are very close, I would say let's drop 3 and stick with 10 because 10 has 2 majority Latino voting districts, right?
Almost. Yeah, I think just shy of 50% there in District 4.
So it doesn't have 2?
Right. No, District 3.
They both just have 1. Okay.
Yeah. District 4 is a little bit closer in this one to hitting that 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like if you could push just a few blocks, census blocks from 3 to 4, you could get above that without much work either,
Mm-hmm.
So putting 10 instead of 3.
So yes to number 10.
I think.
I think 10's maybe a smidge better than 3.
And here's the last one.
Yeah, the benefit of this one compared to 10 is it gets you over that 50% for 2 districts. However, does break up Spring Lake in an imbalanced way, I guess. Right.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have enough, information on the details of it to distinguish between 3, 10, and 11. And I think, anything that I might have to say about them getting more information, we could probably, tweak it to address those concerns. So, in terms of those 3, I suggest we pick one and drop the other 2.
Right.
Assume that, the benefits of the other 2 can, be merged into the one that we end up choosing as the one to stick with.
Mm-hmm.
Just for clarity's sake, to to eliminate the number of maps to look at.
All right, Peggy, if you were to choose one though, to start with, is it more important to maintain Spring Lake's continuity? Right, because all of these, are really close to doing that. So if you're gonna be close, you might as well be all in. It's kind of my sense on it.
I don't think Spring Lake's interests are served by keeping it all mainly in one district and shaving off edges into other districts. And I think, Spring Lake is unique in that. I think all the other districts would be well served with maintaining something close to their current boundaries. My feeling is Spring Lake would be best served if it were split in half. And so a large number of residents went to a different district and their interests could be thereby served by 2 districts and, have 2 council members largely invested in serving Spring Lake's interests.
Right. Yeah, but I agree. If though you're going to have a map for sort of discussion purposes, if that's where the commission wants to go with some of these ones that are as similar as possible to current district boundaries, don't fit that description, right? So you're going to have,
I agree with that.
Inherently, again, a map that if you're going to try to maintain all of Spring Lake in a district, right? I think this map that tries to accomplish maintaining current boundaries as much as possible in Spring Lake should have all of Spring Lake in it, right?
Yeah.
So
to the extent possible.
Yeah. So if you were to look at 10 versus 11 versus 3, with that lens, I want to maybe scroll up real quick and see if 10 keeps Spring Lake intact.
10.
Yeah. So yeah, all Spring Lake is maintained in a single district there. And you're really close to hitting that 2 districts, over 50% Hispanic voter population. So I think this is probably as close to maintaining those 2 principles as possible. So
I'm good with that. Okay. I think number 11 was David, so we want to make sure you would be okay with.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry, David.
That's okay.
Just argued yours out.
We're good.
Is 11 a yes or a no?
Well, did we say that number 10 had 2 districts with majority of Latino voting population? Oh, it's 1.
Not quite. Yeah, we're just shy of hitting that plus 50 mark in District 5 or 4. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think with some thoughtful boundary line adjustment, you might be able to maintain that.
Yeah.
Anne left the meeting. She has another meeting at 7:30.
Yeah,
all right.
I mean, I'm fine with 10 or 11. They're pretty close with the current district lines, and also consider of most majority of growth going to 5th district, and kind of keeps them not spreading out too much, not too much gerrymandering there, none at all. But on my end, I think 10 or 11. So.
So let's set maybe this conversation aside for a minute and talk about, we have 2 remaining public meetings that have been put out there as, the commission wanting to hold. And we've talked about, do we take, a handful of maps or all these maps and put them out there at a public meeting and ask for sort of feedback and reaction and comment on them. Maybe at some risk of what that does to incite people's concern, but so I think there's maybe 2 approaches if you want to go down that path. You pick some distinct maps, 3 or 4 or 5 that you solicit feedback from the community on, and probably be prepared to articulate what those maps accomplish and maybe how they fit certain principles or objectives, and get community feedback on that. The alternative is say, hey, so far we've received 11 submissions. Here they all are. We welcome your comment or input on those 11 submissions, or additional submissions if you'd like after seeing these. And then you take all of that feedback and you have one last public meeting possibly, and you sort of whittle down, hey, here's some commonalities that we're seeing in these maps based on these principles, and get that one last community touch point and feedback. And then you take all that into your February sessions where you deliberate amongst yourselves, how do you balance these different issues. So that was my sort of takeaway on kind of how we might proceed from here, and welcome other suggestions, better suggestions, which I'm sure there are, on how to proceed. But for discussion purposes, thought I'd put that out there for you guys to give some feedback on. And I know we've lost now Anne, so if you feel like we need to circle back with Anne and Mary too on kind of where we want to go with this, we can do that. But while we've got the 3 of you left, it'd be good to get your thoughts on, how do we take what we've learned so far and, get us to a consensus point on the commission.
I personally think there's too many to put out to the public to get feedback on. And I do like the idea of having 3 or 4. And and the ones we've just been discussing, the 10, 11, 3, I think, would be important, or maybe not, maybe 2, maybe 10 and 11 are too close. But yeah, I think if we get more than 4, well, I don't think we're going to get a close enough consensus to go forward with it. And I'd like to see a little bit of a consensus.
I completely agree with you, Robert, that presenting 11 maps is not going to be helpful to us. And I also think that we have been really disappointed in the public turnout and interest in this process. And I do think one of the probably actually putting maps out for people to look at as real things that might really happen and warrant comment is the way to go. And I don't think people can handle more than 5. Even 5 would be a lot.
Right.
But you could kind of label them with minor tweaks to existing boundaries. So status quo map, the split the Spring Lake map, the vertical everybody has the same as common interest map.
Right.
I guess the only thing I would say, and maybe a couple more, would be if we had a chance to pick something like 5 and then have Ethan Walsh just take a quick look at them and say, does this raise any red flags for you? Because I really do like the vertical stripes.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to put it out there without hearing from Ethan. Going from 2 majority Latino districts to 0 is really, just asking for it. And so getting just a real quick, not definitive, because obviously these are not going to be final maps that are going to be tweaked and everything, but just getting a little bit of that before we.
Yeah. I mean, my argument against that is, damn it, we've had public meetings, and if you wanted to show up, you could have shown up, and don't come back to me and cry now. But that's I know we can't do it that way, but I sure as hell like to. Yeah.
Well, we know best, don't we? Actually.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly run the legal test past Ethan on these. I think I also heard a good suggestion from Tom or somebody to check how many folks are, in a changed district or moving out of, their current community of interest into another one potentially. So what does that test look like, and how many folks are, at risk of, some level of change from current districts?
As part of that, Ken, sorry, I don't want to take you off track, but
good.
As part of that, it would be very nice to see, and I think that would be sort of the same analysis, which is if you're a resident of Spring Lake, what new district do you end up in? And that we could show that in that way as well.
Right, and maybe, Peggy, do you think it's important, if particularly in the split Spring Lake category, how many of those Spring Lake residents are in each, new district? So is it a 20-40, or sorry, good math, 20-80 split, 60-40 split?
Well, the split of Spring Lake is one thing, 20-80, 60-40, 50-50. But then, of course, the key point is what proportion of the new district is Spring Lake. So if they end up being 15% of a new district, that's what I consider not a good solution,
I see. So you're advocating if they're split, they should be close to a, almost, 50% representation in that new district. Is that what you're hoping for, right? So not a minority interest in the district.
Something that would not be an extreme minority, let's put it that way. I don't know what it really looks like because I can't run the numbers myself, but my version of the worst way to do this is to take Spring Lake at 15,000 and you need to take off 3,000 and you put 1,000 in each of 3 different districts. That to me is a dilution of the representation of Spring Lake. The optimal would be 7,500 and 7,500 each going into a new district where they represent perhaps between 40 and 60% of the new district. And I do think, when I was playing around with it, it does, just run into some issues with the majority Latino voting district, for which I would not advocate for a result like that.
Right.
I just think it's a little bit of a numbers problem once you get there. But optimally, I think the split in half and a good chunk of a new district would be my preferred approach. And I would hope that, conceivably, a lot of the other districts would remain about the same, with the same boundaries, which is another goal I'm hearing here.
Right.
1, 2, and 3 maybe wouldn't need to change that much, but that's what I was thinking.
Well, I don't know how you avoid that. If you're going to take a majority portion out of Spring Lake and put it in a new district, you've got to have some corresponding substantial.
I don't think you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see that. Yeah. So I think I took you a little off track, Ken. You were.
No, that's good. No, absolutely. I agree with, if you're going to do it, right, let's have Spring Lake, have a substantial representation in the 2 districts that they're broken up into. Okay. So that's going to require us to spend some time with Danny, sort of running some analysis to look at those. And I've lost track which maps sort of fit into those 3 same categories, Peggy, that you mentioned. I'd actually written down 2, so I think that makes sense, right? Maintain similar to current district boundaries, to let's split Spring Lake as much as we can equally, to the vertical orientation approach that gives every district some level of representation on the north-south boundaries of the community, gets Main Street in there. So using those sort of 3 key themes or principles, we can go back through these maps and, pull out maybe 4 or 5 that accomplish those in different degrees, run some legal tests, do some percentage assessment. And then, probably need to circle back with a group to sort of report back on all of that and talk through it. Spencer, remind me when the next public meeting.
January 11th.
Was it? I think
it's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday at Norton Hall.
So fair amount of work to do, and then position and promote what people can expect at that next meeting, right?
Yeah.
Other alternative is take the pressure off, let us run the same program at that meeting up in Norton Hall that we've been doing with expected minimal attendance. And then the final meeting, right, we provide the maps for folks to provide comment on. So it gives us a little bit more time to sort of think through it and do it thoughtfully, I think.
Yeah, Ken, I'd even say just, I agree with your approach. I think that kind of with the vertical stripes one, I think for me, almost the principle at play there is the what is possible, pushing the boundaries sort of value, rather than, that is an illustration of that, in my opinion. I think there was one other one where the districts really shifted around a lot. And maybe we include 1 or 2 of those just to illustrate, right? What could happen.
Let's not constrain ourselves to
just stripes up and down, right? I think the idea is that these could really change. So make sure anyone who's interested sees that that's a possibility.
No, I appreciate that, Spencer. And also, we've been talking with our own kind of preconceptions and ideas, and I've certainly been, kind of narrow-minded in my approach to this. And I think that there might be some other categories, but I think we've exhausted our time tonight to go through that, and maybe we've exhausted it completely as we stand. But you know, to my mind, that we come up with only 3 ways to do this, that seems a little bit limiting. And so I would welcome anybody who had, you know, additional ideas sort of along the lines of, you know, mix it up or something. I really liked your pun, Spencer, push the boundaries here. So, but
Thank you.
But I think it's best just to go forward with the 3 as we have them, and keep in mind, like you said, maybe there might be 1 or 2 more to add to the mix as illustrative of what could be done.
Yeah, and logistically, I'd be interested to hear feedback on Ken's idea of perhaps we keep the schedule and sort of that Saturday, January 22nd publicized meeting is somewhere where we have, if not a very specific map, right, kind of archetypes of types of things that might be important, whether it's similarity to existing or Spring Lake split, whatever. You know, is that something we're comfortable with? Do we need to discuss again if, you know, the 2 missing folks are comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think, you know, given 2 of the commission members being absent, right, to help us move forward as a group, and the limited amount of time we have before the next workshop that we've published, let's hold the workshop, you know, kind of status quo next time. You know, we can bring these maps that have been submitted to the meeting next week, and if anybody does show up, they can be a good sort of talking point. But, you know, let's plan to reconvene, you know, shortly thereafter, next Tuesday's meeting with this group. We'll have our you know, evaluation of these various maps with legal and sort of the numbers assessment, and then hopefully we can walk out of that next meeting with, you know, here's how we want to structure community discussion. We're comfortable with, you know, this representation of 5 maps for the community to react to for these reasons. And then yeah, we'll have a big showing on the Saturday the 22nd. While I'm in Hawaii. Right.
Are you a betting person?
No, because I always lose. So.
Oh God. Well, you might not. I mean, I'll start making the odds.
There we go. All right. How does that sound to the group?
I like that. I think keeping the status quo and then you, going ahead and giving staff time to work for the grand finale of January 22nd would be good. Also, like you mentioned, if you have the maps available there, it's going to bring the conversation that we kind of saw in the last workshop. So thank you for that suggestion.
All right. Sounds like a game plan. Who scheduled to be present at the next workshop? Is that Mary?
Who's on it? Next workshop?
Yeah, Anna, do you know?
I'm on the Saturday one. I'm on the 22nd, I think.
All right.
Oh, my refrigerator is where it is. In the kitchen.
All right. Well, Anna, let's just make sure we touch base. It's probably the 2 folks that aren't here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have been the 22nd. I just don't, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know I wasn't the 11th though.
I think I'm on it, but yeah, you should have to be careful because I went to one and there were 3 of us there and I boogied. I mean, I just turned around and left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Robert and Ann on January 11th.
Okay.
And then Katie and David on January 22nd.
Okay.
Okay. I knew I was.
Good. All right. And then I know Mary is working with our librarian to help the Teen Advisory Board go through an exercise too. So we'll have some feedback from that process by the end of the month.
Great. Maybe that'll be map number 4 or 5, the library.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, David, I'll let you close it out.
We can, we don't have to vote, so I think we can, do we have a scheduled meeting to come back though? Can we schedule one, or should we just go through email on that? To kind of touch base after the next week's workshop? Should we schedule something?
Yeah, if the three of you at least can indicate what your availability would be either Wednesday or Thursday of next week. We want to leave as much time as possible for us to pull together materials for the 22nd.
I'm available Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday, but Wednesday would be best, so that way we give enough time.
Wednesday, January 12th?
Yes.
Okay. At 6 p.m.?
Yeah.
It works.
Or
Okay.
Thursday. Both those days work for me.
All right, we'll check with Ian and Mary and make sure it works for them, and now put a hold on the calendar. Good.
Super.
Well, I think we made a lot of progress tonight. I feel much better about getting, zeroed in, at least on a direction. So appreciate the extra time and thoughtful input today, and continued attention on this.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you.
You've been very helpful on this.
Yeah. No, it's
Good night,
fun.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Tom, Spencer, Anna, Ken.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Danny. Bye.